Hey, everybody. Welcome to a show that we haven't done in, gosh, it feels like at least 6 months, right? I don't think we've done a team heritage signature auction recap in quite a while. It probably was last November or so. So we were overdue. We've had a lot of fun doing these in modified versions, but this will be good to get a all-star team of collectors together to talk about last weekend's auction. So let me introduce Mr. Dan Pottick, Mr. Michael.
Hey, comic art fans.
And Mr. Dino Mauricio.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome to the show, guys. It's a pleasure to have all of you back. You know, I can't tell you how much people are always excited to see the three of you. Whether we're doing just we're doing little talks, or Michael, you're chuckling, man. But everybody loved that last show that you did with Nick when we had the amateur match, and Dan, believe it or not, people do keep asking, when is Dan Pottick going to be back on the show? It's a regular
I know. Well, I pay them to do it, you know.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't want to say that you were the guy asking most often, when was Dan Pottick going to be back on the show?
He has a good PR team.
Yes, he does.
Well, it's always good to get views from things. I mean, obviously, art is subjective. There's a lot of insights from different collectors, and being able to share that together is.
Wow, it sounds like you're in the space shuttle there, Dan. Do you know?
Oh,
I'm just kidding. It's
okay.
For me, it's like this weird. It sounds like you're listening through Houston to the astronauts. That's all.
Oh, must be the mic, but
it's well, no, it sounds good.
It sounds fine. It's clear. It's nothing bad.
So,
I'm following you.
So what do we? So we have last weekend's auction was pretty spectacular, and it's in many different ways. No like Grand Slam home run piece, which makes the overall results all the more interesting. One of the things that I wanted to ask you guys about is I think we've gone through 2 iterations of the new format, right, where they've moved everything to Friday and Sunday, because there was always a lot of complaints with the other format, with art sprinkled here and there, and then long Sundays. Do you guys feel that that's worked better for all of you in terms of being bidders in this format?
Well, I'll say this: Heritage is in a tough spot because they've just got so much material to move. In the old format, you had to be free for the Platinum Day, and then the second day, and then the third day, and then there was a weekly, either close to the first auction or the last auction. It was mind-numbing, and if you like following the auctions live, it was just impossible to do. But the alternative is to block them all together and make these tremendous long marathon sessions that are also difficult. I mean, the only real fix would be to clamp down on the number of lots per auction. But if they do that and you want to give them something, it might not come up till 2025, 2026. It would be terrible. It would be crazy for them to do it. So one way or another, it's tough. I will say some people didn't appreciate the more brisk auction pace that some of the auctioneers brought this time around. But I actually appreciated it. I understand that we've got a lot of lots to go through. And even as a consigner who put things up, I kind of understood and was pretty cool with it. My 2 cents.
Which segment do you feel the pace was picked up on, overall, or the live bidding?
It was the new auctioneer. The one.
Yep.
Yes, no, maybe so. Remember that?
I do.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
She's quick, professional. I like her,
Yeah.
but I appreciate not everyone's cup of tea.
that is right what Dan said. I mean, there's so many lots to go through. And this one, you had the Roger Hill kind of horror collection, which had to precede it, which was a big amount of lots. But there's something to be said about having the old way where the art was divided into parts, so you could actually strategize, I guess, take a break and think about how things were going on the first part, and then that can help you make some decisions on the second, and vice versa when it comes to what they call the robo or auto bid non-live segment. But here, this one just seemed like it was 6.5 hours of just straight art, and I actually didn't know, I couldn't tell when the 92 series would turn over to 93. You couldn't time it from the beginning. You had no idea whether it's going to be an hour and a half in, or 2 hours, or 45 minutes. So that was that kind of got, if you're interested in the 9300 lots, you didn't know when that was the beginning, and so that was a kind of a time uncertainty for anyone looking to bid. So.
Yeah, it was nice. I think it's nice to have it consolidated into the two. The hard part is, at least for those of us on the West Coast, the Friday is right in the middle of the workday, and it literally is, all right, I can't work today because I have to watch Heritage. I was at a networking event Friday morning, and had to periodically check my phone to see if the initial the 9200 series was over and they were starting on the 93, because I had interest in some of the early lots, and so it's kind of weird to be networking with people and excusing yourself so you can leave the room and check Heritage. But it does make Sunday a marathon, and it is just a slog at that point. But at least I can have it on the background and have the baseball game on at the same time.
I have to admit, one day I was listening to I was keeping track of a Heritage auction while a meeting was going on, and I was trying to fix the sound, and all of a sudden I heard this, "You've been outbid," and I was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "I don't know, it must have been coming from someone's laptop." So that was definitely Heritage.
That happens unless you can turn the volume down.
Yeah, that's what I didn't do. I didn't manually.
But if you put a bid in and you've been outbid, there's a separate thing that triggered. Believe me, I've run to the computer really, really quick when it goes off, and my wife hears it. So yeah. I've been there. It's rough.
But the good news is, while there wasn't there were some monster prices for some of the big pieces, which again is a return to what we were used to. You had some bigger lots in here than some of the recent auctions, and it was good to see. They started things off pretty heavy.
The one thing I don't do with the Heritage auctions is, watching them. I think that's probably what a lot of people do. I tend to place bids on stuff on the weekly ones. I'm not a big player in the signature auctions, but I know that with regards to the watched auctions, I usually get a text message about 5 lots ahead of any lot that I bid on, letting me know that. Do they do the exact same thing when you're watching a lot to let you know that it's coming up? Like
it chimes when it scrolls on the bottom. It'll chime when something you've saved is coming up. What's also remarkable was that when the Art 9300 1000 series came up, the Heritage total was already 12 million at the time. That was before those lots started. Part of that was because of the Roger Hill, but also the big comics, the action, the Tech 27, a lot of big numbers coming out of the comics that kind of had a huge total before the even main art began. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I saw some people ribbing me about not saying there was a grand slam. $840,000 is a lot of money, absolutely, for that one particular cover. But it's definitely a home run, Jason. Or Jason says it's not a home run, but it's not a $6 million Frazetta painting either that we've seen in the past, or even a couple $1 million on pieces. But sure, absolutely, 840 is a incredible amount, and I'm sure the Roger Hill family is very appreciative of all the people who contributed to. I don't even know what just his segment of the auction was, but it did incredibly well. But here, I'll show you. I got that little chart that shows us the last 2 years of sales, and the reason I kind of asked about the format change was because I think the format change was in April, right? It wasn't in the January auction, but clearly with the format change, they have a lot more lots. And it has produced, higher results than we've had in that, in most of 2023, right, where we were kind of lagging a bit with the, with maybe the economy and some, maybe not as many stellar pieces, but most of 2023 was relegated to that $6 million or $6.5 million total sales, with an average of around, I don't know, you could say 640, 650 lots per time. But these last 2 auctions, which without having, like a marquee, Dark Knight cover or a Frazetta painting, both went over $10 million, and the per lot value went up, which is, striking, to be honest. I'm a little surprised to see that, but I think the format change has at least helped them realize higher dollars and push a few more pieces through, as well, which is what, like you guys were talking. They need to do that, right? Because they have so much inventory. They need to find ways to get more lots out there, or the consigners will end up moving elsewhere.
It's interesting to note some of the collectors were chatting that of all the collectibles that Heritage brings to market, the cards to Golden Age and Silver Age slab books and art, all of them kind of had a run up because of COVID, but all the other collectible categories have suffered a decline of sorts over the last, I guess, half year or more. But OA has seemed to have held its ground and actually started stronger pricing. So that's very comforting to be in this hobby, but it's something that's of note that, you've had a slight decline in some of the Golden Age and Silver Age and other collectibles, but not OA. So art seems to be holding ground.
Well, I'll agree with you, Dino, but I'll put a little asterisk on there because while I see good examples being chased to all-time highs, you go down, I don't know, maybe 2 tiers, and it's a whole different matter. There's a lot of people who came in pretty hot, who aren't buying quite as much as they were. And even though there aren't as many people cashing out of comic art, there is some extra churn that isn't quite as liquid as it was when there are a lot of examples to compare from. So in the middle of the market, I think there are several pockets of softness. I saw that in the auction, but across the board, the old time material, the new stuff, pretty much every category, the good plus examples really brought it home and keep trucking on.
Nope, I'd agree with you both. I think that,
and someone commented on movie props also being in the same kind of category, and that would make sense because, like comic art, you're really kind of dealing with one of a kind items, and I think unlike the more fungible collectibles like trading cards and comics, there is only one of these pieces that we're all salivating after, and someone has to win. So I think all that stuff has managed to retain the interest and these ridiculously high prices. I say that as a 45-year collector. These ridiculously high prices. Why I oughta. Yes, the grumpy old man opinion coming from
you. Are the old man in the group. You've got like a good 10 years on all of us collecting wise. Not age necessarily, but collecting wise. Lovitz is the old man in the room. You've
got 20 years on me. I've only been doing this for 25 years. So if you've got 45 in here, Michael, wow, I'm envious.
Yeah.
You saw Jack Kirby, selling the artwork out of his trunk, right? From the car a few times. He had to have. Maybe
not quite that. He didn't make it to the East Coast Philadelphia conventions.
All right.
So no. But
well, who would like to start tonight as far as showing off your lots?
You're the one pulling up the pictures. You decide.
I'm the one. All right. Well, since you spoke up, Dan, maybe we'll start with you. How's that sound?
Works for me.
Good to me.
All right. Let me share my screen here, and we'll get this thing underway. Here we go. Gotta resize things a little bit here.
Sure. Graham Ingles' Haunt of Fear. Now, this whole Roger Hill auction was very impressive. A lot of the old-time collectors have been waiting to get their hands on a bunch of these pieces. His collection was legendary. But even among his collection, there are things that I've never seen the like of before. And in the 20 years of following Heritage's auction, I've never seen such a striking, horrific image. I mean, I've seen more gruesome stuff, it doesn't have that face melting and it's not famous, but ghoulish, it really stood out. It sold for a couple $100,000, and I imagine it's worth every penny because honestly, I've never seen its like before. Jarring.
Yeah, agreed. I was just doing some quick searches in our market data, and it is the highest priced Ingalls cover that's sold. The next closest is Haunt of Fear 20, which sold for $114,000 in 2022. So $90,000 less than this one.
I like how he signed Ghastly. That's kind of a cool thing.
But yes, that is frightening. And like you said, Dan, I think I was seeing a lot of commentary on Facebook from even comic book or just EC fans, where they were talking about wanting to try to, bid on some of Roger's pieces because they've seen him in photographs from his home, from meetups of EC fans. And I think that there was a broad interest in this, not just from art collectors, but, just fans of Roger and, in the period in which he was really fond of collecting. So it was kind of cool to see. We don't see that too often, or I don't recall seeing so many different people whose names I didn't know, right? Because they were just kind of wedged into conversations that were just appearing on Facebook seemingly randomly, but a lot of people talking about it. So, that was neat. We didn't see it when the kitchen sink stuff went out, I think on the last one, I didn't see that same kind of fervor, but Roger Hill definitely was well known, and his collection was well known.
Oh yeah, stuff that nobody could ever get. That's one of the things about being there in the beginning. There's some really amazing old school stuff that nobody ever gets to own. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what Roger Hill's collection was like.
Agreed.
Oh, Born Again, Mazzucchelli. A bunch of people were really stunned by this result. I was impressed. I won't say stunned, but I was impressed. When I saw it coming up, for a brief moment, I thought maybe I might take a shot. But then I found out one of my friends was going at it pretty hard. And then I found out another one was going for it pretty hard. And then I realized, oh, this is going to be one of those pieces. I realized people were going to fight over this. I was texting Felix actually a couple weeks ago about Mazzucchelli's sketches. He thinks that Mazzucchelli is going to get a boom in popularity with the artist or absolute edition, but there's something coming up, and certainly there's never going to be a lot of good examples of Born Again that come up. So very impressive, but I don't expect this to be an aberration if we see another good one come up soon.
Marvel's going to make a movie.
Go ahead, Dino. Sorry.
There's going to be a Born Again movie, I believe, on Marvel's slate. And if I had an example, to get Nuke and Daredevil and Kingpin on the page, I suppose that's a very choice example.
It's a great page.
I think I don't know if it's a movie. I think it's the TV series that they're going to be doing.
Okay.
And look, the Miller prices remain strong. The Miller Daredevil stuff is beloved, and they do an amazing prices when they come to auction. The problem with the Mazzucchellis are that it's just this storyline that he did that garners this kind of attention and these kinds of prices. And when you think about it, Miller's run was 20, 30 some issues, whereas this was 5 or 6. So this didn't really surprise me, even though it surprised me.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Alberto said impressive, but honestly not that surprising. The good pages don't come up too often. And like you said, if there's only 5 issues of choice material from this storyline, yeah, it's always going to be in demand. Let's see here, a Kirby FF 3 page with that great building cutaway.
Yeah, I'm actually, look, it didn't do poorly at all. It did 50K, and that's a fine result. But collectors who have been around for a while generally acknowledge FF3 as the earliest Marvel superhero art that's ever come up. this was so early. We're still talking, I think this would have been very, very early 62 at this point, and there was nothing else going on. The first few issues, you really didn't have a lot of good examples. There weren't that many pretty pages, and this is actually one of the better ones with Fantastic Four, fantastic building schematic. I was kind of expecting it to do a little bit better, but I kind of guess the younger collectors aren't that into it. I guess the first appearance guys don't really care about FF3 being the first Marvel art because it isn't a first in the book. But it's one of those things that if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have expected it to be a lot more valuable than it is.
It is the first Fantastic art, I believe. Which first appearance of sorts.
Okay.
I mean, I can see your point, Dan. You know, being the first known art out there from this era. You know, small team piece, but for those people who kind of cherish this era, you would, yeah, I guess I could see it have gone higher, or but certainly not lower than where it's at right here.
If it had a character or two kind of in larger profile, it would have done better. I think that's the
it
hard
needs
thing.
to be prettier. I think the old material that holds its value going forward with a next generation of collectors either needs to be very significant in a memorable way that they actually remember, or it's got to be very, very, very pretty. And this thing, even though it's amazing, and I think it should be more, doesn't hit any of those notes. So 50, I guess, is a fine number.
We haven't held up one placard yet. I don't want to hold up Great Buy.
Well, let me help you then.
Next, thank you very much. I was looking for that one too. So we have a paperback cover by Perez, New Teen Titans.
Yeah, I'm sure Lovitz will have something to say about this. Well, when I remember seeing this image was actually in one of your little eBay weekly recaps on the website. Somebody picked this up for $4,000, I think, as a buy it now. It was listed as unpublished, just a drawing, a nice drawing of the Teen Titans. It sold instantly, of course. I had a buddy who actually clued into it maybe 15 minutes after it was listed, and it was already long gone. But here we are, maybe 9 months, less than a year later.
Wow.
And it comes up, and part of it is an increase in interest in Perez art. I definitely see people chasing the nicer examples a lot harder. Perez was so productive. There's a ton of stuff, but you don't see a lot of good Teen Titans art with good Teen Titans images. This is not part of the main run. This was a outside publisher paperback, but it looks pretty. And that was enough to take it as high as it went.
Michael, what say you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Your friend was one of a legion of collectors, myself included, who woke up to the announcement of this being posted on eBay and it already having been sold. So it certainly was one of those amazing bargains on eBay. But but at the same time, the person who bought it probably paid, $400 for it. So was happy to get $4,000 back without realizing what it was. Probably, who knows? And because it's not a mainstream publish, because it's not from the main series or from a DC based trade collection or whatever it might be, it doesn't have the same emotional resonance for all collectors. And I think had this been from the main run, it would have gone much higher.
How much?
It was still from main run, it would have been in the 40 to 60 range easily, just because it's the whole team in a dynamic manner.
No, that makes sense.
It's inked by George. So it did well. It's a great inexpensive example of a Titans cover. you couldn't touch a real one from the first 45 issues or 44 issues for anything close to that, I believe. So so it was a nice piece. It wasn't one I pursued heavily because, again, it wasn't a book that I collected, so it didn't mean anything to me. But yeah, some good observant person found it and made a nice quick profit off of it. And
Yeah,
sadly, that's what Heritage does a lot of sometimes.
Yeah.
It went for $27,600, Nick. Yeah, those things don't happen too often. They've never happened to me. Find something for $4 and sell it for 7 times that. But
All right.
John Byrne, wonderful wraparound cover image.
Wah, wah, wah.
Oh,
It's condolences.
You just don't see good vintage. Just the quality of the image. It sums up everything from his short run on Captain America in the early '80s, and I just thought it was great. Slightly oversized, not much, but a great quality image. And I collect Byrne. I kind of said, okay, I'll go to 30, technically 31. But once it started going past there and you start getting inching towards 40, then it's like, well, you could actually get something from the original. Remember, this was then 10 years after his run, and it's slightly different. But once it started getting to the numbers where you could actually get the actual first run art, I kind of bowed out. But it's beautiful. You will not see its like very often, and great piece. Congratulations to the winner who took it for 36.
I love
Thank
having
you.
all the villains on there too. That made for a great thing. And this was in the platinum section, so it was actually sitting at like 12 grand before it went live. And I thought, wow, this is gonna be a bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
no, this was a piece I put in a solid 20,000 because it was so low to start. Before the actual auction started, and kept an eye on it, and luckily walked away from my group. And sorry, I outbid you, Dan. But
Well, congratulations.
thank you,
Here.
thank you.
Here's something for you, buddy.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah,
I wasn't the direct underbidder, so you don't get mad at me.
Exactly. This was kind of a birthday present for myself.
Well, happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Michael.
60 tomorrow. So
You're a man of distinctive taste.
Oh, thank you for sharing this the night before with us, Michael. That's a wonderful piece. Dang.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of Dragon Man. I don't know why. I just am. And this was such a great Dragon Man image that I thought, okay, I'm going to pick this up. And now I've got a couple of pages from the run, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just sell the pages. Now I've got
Excellent.
like a perfect summary of his run, and why not?
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. That's awesome. I've always wanted a really good John Byrne piece, and it's nice to see the price levels that these things are going for these days. I'm almost priced out. I've talked about this the other day. I'll probably have to start looking at his commission work, which he's done a lot of it, but that might be what I might be relegated to. But that's a great cover.
Yeah, I figured a cover from the actual run was going to be double what that went for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as long as I'm bidding against you, it will be.
There you go.
Oh man, an early birthday gift too, Dan. You had no chance. Absolutely no chance.
Nothing but love. Nothing but love.
That's right.
Next up, we have a Steve Dillon Preacher page, an early one, going for almost $4,000.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It seems every time I come on this show, I talk about Preacher, and it's usually a cover. This time around, it's one of the best pages from issue 3. 2 of the best characters. The book itself really landed on its feet from day one, hit its cylinders. It's a great example. It actually sold for more than double this a few years back. I thought it should have gone for much more. Like I said, once you get to this price point, there's a tremendous amount of choices now. And I wonder if Preacher is just a little bit problematic for a collector. The subject material, unless you really have a nostalgic feel for it, is a little off step with what maybe some of the newer collectors would consider socially acceptable. I don't know. I just think that this thing should be more collected. Certainly the fact that the Preacher TV series didn't take off maybe keeps people from thinking this is going to be the next big thing, but it was a great series, and whoever got it got a wonderful example at a really respectable price, really.
Yeah, I don't follow the market too well, but I know that standard average pages are always going for like the $2,500 to $2,800 mark, and maybe that consistency also might have hindered this. People didn't realize it was such an early page or something. I mean, you never know, right?
And with Saint of Killers would make it for an A page, like right down, like
I think so. The context is beautiful.
It's huge.
Mm-hmm. It's the two of the main characters meeting for the first time. Violence, cursing, and just great characterization of the Saint. I love it. Really, really. I should have bought it. Oh well.
Oh well.
Always something around the corner.
That is very true.
Sad but true.
Now,
right, so shaking here. What was it?
This
60%?
this was an oddity coming into this, because Chaykin's art outside of early American flag stuff doesn't usually bring big numbers. But I remembered this image, not so much that I read the book, but back in the early 90s, they made a poster of it. And I remembered it in my local comic shop. So it's gone through, it's been published a couple times. It's a poster. It's really, considering the era, the subject, I expected it to go to around 10. I wouldn't have been surprised to see it go for 12. It wound up going for 6.5. And I hear it went to a friend of mine. Congratulations. Good for you. I think it's a wonderful piece. I might have bid on it, but I'm happy to know it went to you. So great piece, really, and well bought, I think.
Yeah, I think it. I know who bought it as well, so it meant a lot to them. The poster on their wall growing up, I think that when you see something like that, and they already have skin in the game because of the nostalgia factor. Looking at it for years growing up, I know they were very, very happy to pick that thing up.
Awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be 10. Lucky day for him.
Yeah.
There were a few really good buys at 6K. At 6K, there was if you do one of those shows where you do, Dino, where you like take a choice, you pull up like $5,000, $6,000, you're going to get like 20 lots to pick through and just rank them all. It'd be crazy because there's just so many choices at this price point now. Everything is $5,000. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting piece, and I think it was certainly helped by the nostalgia factor of the graphic novel that Howard did, Scorpio Factor, the Wolverine Nick Fury graphic novel. So I think that's probably gave it a little leg up to the normal X-Men collectors, because it wasn't just, oh, Howard's never done X-Men before or Wolverine before. No, he has, and but I agree, it's a great piece. It's really, really nicely done, and could easily have seen it going higher than it did. So nice choice, Dan.
All right. And this was that Art Adams piece, and for some reason the thing thinks I'm not signed in. So there we go, $33,600 on this one.
Oh, gosh, I know a lot of people, myself included, who were watching this because it just was sitting at, what was it, $2,000, something like that, for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then the morning of, I realized, oh, no, this isn't going under the wire. It's at least $15K. And then it went up even more before the pre-bidding, and I was like, oh yeah, it's a beautiful, super early art.
Hey, Michael, those papers are right next to your microphone.
Yeah, the paper shoveling's killing me, Mike.
Really? Because I just for the first time picked up the piece of paper.
Okay. Well, nobody move, and we'll talk about art. No, but seriously, it's an amazing piece. It's beautiful. Any excuse to pull this up and show everybody one more time. Take a good look at it. You know, it was a crazy price, but you know, you don't really get to see a lot of Art Adams pieces of this quality, so it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Could have been more, and I wouldn't have been shocked. It's
I mean,
great.
this is even really detailed for Art Adams, so that.
He was. This is before he established his style. This is like him really trying so hard to show people that I'm talented. You know, there's that little extra oomph in there.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that this actually was like the 4th highest heritage auction for an Art Adams piece. Considering it's essentially an unpublished piece, that somewhat surprised me, but it absolutely is beautiful. Does anyone know who any of these dwarf characters are supposed to be? Are they based on anyone?
Well, the one in the back is definitely Walt Simonson, the one with the Thor hat and the hammer.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But
I wasn't
I
sure
don't
if
know
any of
who
the others were.
Who knows? You'd have to reach out to Art, you know.
I'll have to ask him in San Diego.
That's got to be Simonson. Look at it.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I think that, and you're absolutely right. It is the 4th highest sold at Heritage or anywhere, at least.
Well,
public.
that's because they never brought the right Art Adams piece up for auction. I'll tell you, there's a surprising number of Art Adams pieces out there worth 6 figures. Not saying there's a million of them, or tons of them. There aren't, but yeah, a really good Art Adams published cover. Those things go for a lot, and if the right one came up for auction, everyone would know that.
Mm-hmm. And there was that early published cover. I don't remember what it was. It sold on eBay for about $18,000 about 6 weeks ago. But you know,
oh yeah, with that unpublished Marvel fanfare.
Is that what it was?
Right. I saw that beautiful piece. Not quite as beautiful as this, but very pretty.
Mm-hmm. So it just shows you that there is a market for the early work too, even one that isn't published like this. No, good pick.
Well, this is one that I just want to touch on this real fast because I never know how to couch things, but apparently this is a poster that Art would sell at convention. So he drew it and he would make prints and sell them at convention. So does that make it published?
With Art Adams, I don't think people care. It's the quality of the image that sells it, you know?
I'd count it as published at that point, even if they did it
too.
From Art.
Meh.
I mean, yeah. Let's see here. Frank Brunner.
Yeah, it's a beautiful double-page spread. One of the nicest swords of Conan I've ever seen. Maybe one of you guys can explain the price to me.
45.
It's high. I mean, you see a lot of the Ernie Chan double-page splashes that come up. They're about 4,000 to 6,000. So this was definitely an outlier. I think Brunner is special because of the rarity in this quality, and it's a kind of quality image. I think this is very high for what expectations were, but congrats to the seller.
One and done, like my buddy says.
Well,
and that's what this is.
Everything that's gone higher by Frank has been a Doctor Strange cover. So yeah, that's
very surprising.
It's a beautiful piece, but I guess if somebody, like you just said, the one and done, somebody who was looking for that one example of Conan work, I mean, you don't need another one after this.
2 rich collectors just decided that was the one, I guess.
I mean, if you look at the quality of the inking here, I mean, there's no hard blacks. Everything is feathered shading, and that took a lot of time to do. I mean,
it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, but Savage Sword of Conan double-page spreads, that's impressive. Really. But hey, more power. Whoever got it, enjoy it. It really, I haven't seen the like of it. It's great.
Wall worthy, but very rare for a Brunner DPS from the series.
Just trying to you beat me to it, man. Dan, you're fast on the draw with those. Yep, I got you. Moving on to the next one. Staying in the same same genre, but this time Red Sonja.
Oh,
this was my win of the day. And just for the record, I had no intention of winning this thing when the day started. I was just thumbing through the last part. It's so hard to sit through the whole thing. So during like my last pass through, like we're coming up on the last, I'm going to do my last check of the last whatever number of lots, and then I'm done. This is the end of it. And I'm scrolling through, and under Thorne, I see this image, and it looks really familiar to me. I could have sworn I saw something like this go at a minor auction house a couple of years ago. It was being offered. It was advertised as being done for Frank Thorne's big magic show, the one where he dressed up like a wizard and had Wendy Pinney dress up like Red Sonja. Well, it turned out he did it for that show, and it hung in his studio for something like 50 years until his passing. And when I looked up the lot, I saw it was 5 feet tall, just like that thing I heard about 2 years ago. They didn't mention anything about it hanging in the studio or what it could have been used for, but I kind of put 2 and 2 together, and I said, I'll make a crazy low bid. Like I've been doing all auction long. I do this at auctions. If something doesn't look like it's going for enough and I think I would like it, then yeah, I'll toss a so-so bid. And at these auctions, 9 times out of 10, that doesn't get me anywhere. But lo and behold, I got this well below what I considered a safety bid. So now I have a 5 foot tall,
wow.
5 foot tall painted Red Sonja. And I have told my wife that I bought this thing. I have told her that it is 5 feet tall. We have not discussed the subject matter, and I have not breathed a single word about chainmail bikinis. If anyone in the chat wants to DM me some suggestions on how to work this giant thing through the door, I am all ears.
Put it on the door, Dan. That would be cool. 5 feet.
It's a statement piece, that's for sure. A lot of people talk about, when you go through the front door, what's the first piece of art your guests see? Maybe it could be this one. They would be taken aback, I think, by seeing this image. But
I'll say this: I consider this the ultimate Frank Thorne Red Sonja piece. It hung in his workspace for 50 solid years. He did it for his show, and I mean, for the auction price, I can't complain. I can't beat it. Thank you. Thanks, Dino.
I mean, seriously, that's the price of a really great, interior page that is 1/8 the size, or even.
And this is also one of the results of having 850 lots. You can't possibly read the details of everything to know this is a 5 foot piece, or this. Even if he did say it hung in his gallery, I mean, people wouldn't have even known because of the sheer amount of lots coming to the market. So,
and it almost fits in that $5,000 to $6,000 range you were talking about earlier too, Dan.
Yeah, a lot of choices. I thought this wasn't a bad one. I thought this was a pretty good one for the range. Yeah,
no, not bad at all.
Good luck finding a Mylar that size, though.
Thank you. And I threw in. Maybe not.
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah, I threw in an old Will Elder. I guess he's part of a fading collector base. I don't see him really connecting with enough of the old collectors to keep everything moving forward price-wise, but he was a great influence, great EC creator. And he was really one of the great humorists, I feel, from this era. And just on those grounds alone and the quality of the illustration, I feel like 10 years ago, this thing would have gotten at least as much as it got today, if not more. But we are getting a little further from the material. Fewer and fewer people know who Joe Palooka is, unless you're a strip collector. You know, the strip collectors out there will think I'm full of crap, but, you know, the rest of us, most people have moved on. And it's going to continue to be a wonderful, affordable example going down the road. Whoever got it, I think, got it at a decent price, even though I don't think you'll be able to sell it for more 3 years down the road. You got a very, very nice example for what it is.
I've always associated Bill Elder with his early Mad magazines. I think he was in the first 5 issues or something. And that's a historic artist.
He was.
So,
He was. And here's the thing. He took a sidestep. This is from the 50s. He actually left to do Panic, which is what this is from. So this is the same Elder. This isn't Elder as an old guy. This is all the flavor that he brought from Mad Magazine. But because it's not the Batman story, it's the Mel Palooka story. Because it's Panic and it's not Mad Magazine. It's a totally different price range, totally different group. But it's just as pretty as his Mad work. Just as good. I'll say that. It's just as good.
Cool.
We got one more here.
Yes. Love my Tim Sale. There was a lot of Tim Sale art. Not a lot, but there were enough examples to see stuff go all over the board. I'll say this. There are enough Tim Sale pages to go around if you're just looking for a good-looking example. But if you want a Marvel cover and Tim Sale, you're going to pay up. This thing, I could have seen this thing. I was happy with the price it took. Not that I consigned it, but I thought at $20,000 it wasn't too much and it wasn't too little. As a cover, I think it gets in that range. It's Daredevil yellow, which everybody loves, but it is, I believe, the paperback. I don't think it's from the original series. And maybe the image is a little more pulled in. I would have liked to have seen a little more dynamic action. I do believe that there are way more better covers that Tim Sale did. So as a Tim Sale cover, I think it's just average. So I think it's a testament to the strength of his market that this thing is going 20. And I think if you saw more covers, maybe a Spider-Man Blue or something that involved more scenes, we'd be seeing even better prices. Because it went soft for a while, but this was strong. I like this one.
Yeah, no argument there. There's plenty of the work out there, but not enough coverage. Certainly not on CAF either. I think we might have.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. I feel like I ate too much time.
No, good insight.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Dan. I will hide this one, and let's see. Nobody wants to volunteer. I'll pick Mr. Lovitz. How's that? Let's see here. Let me stop that screen and turn on the one that has your picks. There we go. Get that.
So I was actually somewhat surprised when I saw this result. I think that Buscema did a great run on the Wolverine title, and when you add in the Marvel Comics Presents work that he did, he certainly had a really long, solid run with the character. And obviously, this one was kind of fun and special for collectors because you had Mr. Fix-It, so we get that little bit of nostalgia of Wolverine Hulk coming through. But at 144,000, this is only the second Buscema cover that Heritage has had that crossed the 100,000 threshold. So, and it came in at almost triple the price of the last Buscema Wolverine cover, which was from issue 3 that came in at 48,000. So I thought this was a really, really strong result. The consignor has to have been happy with that. And on the other hand, I mean, one of the most memorable and favorite of the covers from that run outside of issue 10. So I'm not overly surprised. I was more surprised that more of his covers haven't gone for more money. But we're starting to see a lot of these things start to creep up. So
I was watching this too.
case,
Very
jumped up.
you mentioned the past the one other Wolverine cover. This cover Heritage sold in 2014 for $14,000. So it's a tenfold increase in 10 years, which is great appreciation. I think the cover itself is magnificent with the Hulk there and just a great image of Wolverine there. But wow, 144 was certainly an eye-opening price. But
I get
good
why
testament to
collectors like it,
appreciation.
but I would never. That makes no sense to me. I get why some collectors like it, but no, I don't get it.
Sorry, I'm trying to do research
with you,
while
Dan.
we're talking here, but tenfold increase, Dino. That's amazing. I missed that when I was.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's.
And the last one that sold, number 3, Wolverine was in a samurai armor, and you don't really get a good view of him except for, I mean, this you get a full view of him with the Hulk, so you can see if you had to choose one of the top 10, I mean, early 10 covers, it would be one of the ones you point to. But wow.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely. There's no question about that.
That's it.
This was the one that sold 2 years ago at 48. Like you said, it's definitely, this cover is a lot more dynamic than that one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
But maybe this will bring more Wolverine covers to market, right? Price like this.
I think it will, because that last one that you pulled up, that was like during the heat of the collecting boom. That's when everybody was throwing the summer of 2022. People were spending like drunk sailors, and this thing is literally triple of that one. I mean, it's a better cover.
Yeah.
I get why people like this one, but
and I agree with the comments. I agree with the comments that I when I first started doing the write-up on this, I typed Wolverine 8 cover because that's the one that I think of. And so it'd be interesting if that were to come to auction, if how much it would supplant this one by in terms of the final price.
Relative value.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, the Wolverine 7 cover, November 2012, $9,560. So yeah,
Gee, wow.
14. I guess that's 14 times. Anyway, hey, again, wonderful.
Well, I think it sold again, Bill. Maybe it wasn't
even
there,
after
but it
that
sold
one
again for 14.
Okay,
I have it in my file, and then
all right.
Boom.
I'm probably missing the sale in between, but still, that's pretty incredible.
Bravo.
But,
I mean,
yeah, very happy consigner there. All right.
So this one I included because, to be perfectly honest, I was surprised it didn't go higher for a Kirby cover from that era. And then as I was researching it, I discovered that this is the 3rd time that Heritage has sold this cover. That the first time it went for 68,000, second time for 78,000, this time for 84. Which again surprises me because you're not seeing the same kind of price jumps that you sometimes see when pieces go back. And I think part of it might have to do with Thor is not sufficiently dynamic. Thor is in the middle of the hand of Magog, and so maybe people aren't as thrilled by it. Personally, I love the Magog character, so again, this kind of surprised me. But Wes is right. This cover has been around, and I think more than anything, that's what keeps suppressing the price, because it's not new and unique. It's not fresh to market. It's not whatever you want to say. But it's just surprising because when you see things like that, the Buscema cover doing that kind of multiple, that it doesn't apply to the Kirby. For me, I just found it interesting.
There's a different scale for like the top 3 examples. If you're telling me that that's the best Mr. Fix-It story from the Wolverine story, if you're saying that there's only a handful of JB inking JB, if that thing makes the top 3 covers for what it is, that makes more sense at 144 than a Thor cover. And there's a lot of Kirby Thor art out there. Look, 84 grand is still a lot of money. I agree, like the quality of it should run, but there were other pages from Thor in the auction that could be had for a lot less. There was a splash to Thor 150 that just closed last night on Comic Connect for 17 and change. I mean, don't get me wrong.
That was just a headshot, though. That was a headshot.
Yes, but I'm just saying the covers should be different, and that thing at 85 is way different than a 17K splash. But again, there are a lot more Kirby Thor covers that would be considered just as good or better, and that kind of affects how much I think a piece has room to run. Now, if this thing shows up again in a couple of years, ask me what I think it'll go for. I'll say 96. I mean, I think it's a Kirby Thor cover, and it's great. But, yeah, it's not going to run, I think, as an example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it is sort of, you know, a tale that people have to keep in mind, and it's just because it's Thor, just because it's Kirby, just because it's a cover, that by itself doesn't mean that it warrants, you know, like you were saying, Dan, the max price, like you might see when you've got the best Fix-It story, you know, with one of the best inked over himself covers by Buscema having an explanation. So collectors not understanding that there are outliers for a reason is the trap that too many new collectors fall into, is not understanding that differentiation. So like I said, I was kind of surprised because I thought Kirby cover didn't break 6 figures, but just didn't have the right elements to do that. Still a pretty strong price though.
Yeah, I was looking at or following some of the interior pieces that were there. I think there was an interior from 155, 149, and maybe one in the lower 140s, and I think they all went between 8 and 12, I think. But I love this cover. I told Joe that when we did the preview. It's one of my favorite Thor covers. I know it's like, you know, Jason said he's in a compromised position. It never helps, right? But I always remember this cover, you know, when I was collecting.
Yeah, I remember too.
It's so striking, the fire around him. It's Ragnarok, all that stuff. I mean, this.
And Bill, this is from our birth year too, so I love this cover as well.
Oh, it is 68. Oh yeah, there you go. See, even more reason to like it. But I you guys are absolutely right. I mean, it's been out there for sale a couple of the times, and yeah, Thor is not at the a top tier, you know, number 1, number 2, number 3 level, you know, cover that would be desirable from Kirby either. So that probably doesn't help. But let's see here. But I still like this one a lot. And now we're moving to something that sold for quite a bit more, $216,000 for a Romita Senior. What was it? Spidey 50 page, first Kingpin.
Yeah, I was aware that, you know, Kingpin is one of the great Spider-Man and Daredevil villains, and one of the great Marvel villains, and you know, Marvel has done a great job using that character the way they have, and resonates with lots of people. I was still taken aback by the number, but there are enough Romita fans, enough Spider-Man fans, enough Daredevil fans that, you know, when you think about it, this being the first full appearance where you actually get to see who he really is, you know, the front of the front of Kingpin.
Is this a birth page? Is that part of the bump, that this is like the first actual page you see his face on?
That I'm not sure of. I know it's the birth issue, but I did not look to see.
Yeah, I don't
if
think
this
it's the
is first
page.
I think you see him from the back or
Flash.
something. Yeah, I think maybe this is the first time you actually see his face. But before that, I think he was silhouette before, and I don't know. I have to go back and look at the issue. It's been
Well, I can't explain the price, but that might explain some of the bumps. Maybe.
If I remember right, Berkey was saying, and I think this was his consignment, not sure, but he said that this is from 50, but 51 is actually a twice up art. Is that correct? Something like that, where he actually he was happy with the price. Just realized, but
Yeah, you should be.
helps him with the Ditco Spidey spot.
Yeah, exactly. He's
We're
probably
thinking of you, Mike.
Yeah, he texted. He took a nap.
Yeah.
He texted me like
Okay.
10 minutes ago. I said, "Nah, you just
Congrats, man.
keep watching the ball game or something tonight." Yeah, yeah. He was
You know, I
great.
think that with the first appearance phenomenon, obviously it's taken over the past few years. It's gotten a lot of steam. It's nice to see it apply to villains as well, and not just superheroes.
Mhm.
As
Absolutely.
Michael said, Kingpin is as central to the Spidey storyline as any villain.
Can't argue
good
with you
for
there.
Yeah, and in every iteration of Spider-Man that they've done with Ultimates, etc.
Exactly.
So
Mhm.
yeah. Mark Bagley, again, not a classic Bagley. This was very much a newer Bagley from 2019. And one of those, well, there are some people who refer to it as superhero throw-up pieces. I'm not one of those people. I love these kinds of group pieces.
Mhm.
And Bagley is one of those artists that, even though I know he was doing that run on the Bendis version of X-Men for a while, I don't think Bagley is really well associated with the X-Men, at least not by classic collectors. So I was a little surprised to see this did as well as it did. I remember when Spencer was offering this and had it offered for quite a while, I think for the same kind of reasoning that, that's not the artist that I think of when I think of the X-Men. But these kinds of covers have recently been coming more and more into vogue. So it is kind of cool to have one large piece that's got every X-Men ever, or at least every major X-Men, because when you have things like the Krakoan era, when we've got millions of them, it's impossible to do every X character ever. But still,
That's amazing.
It's pretty awesome. I think someone got a really good buy because it didn't go for very much more than it was originally offered for by Spencer. So, so considering it changed hands at least once, someone did good picking this up at the price they did. I just think it'll be a real showpiece for the right people. So
When I see pieces like this, I kind of think about the artist drawing it almost with the original art sale in mind, right? Because he's going to be paid by Marvel if he draws one figure in action, in a cover. But by doing this, he's almost teeing up a very unique original art sale, which is, something that it's given the market, you can't blame them.
This reminds
maybe,
me.
although I would say that because this was a variant cover, I imagine that this is something Marvel specifically asked for, but
okay,
probably the
part
reason
of a storyline where every mutant has to be.
No. I think it was the relaunch of the title, but it was Marvel's way of doing a variant because Marvel loves their variants, and I'm sure the reason Bagley accepted the assignment is exactly what you're saying, which is knowing, I can make a lot of money off of that when I go to sell the art.
Yeah.
Let me
Sorry,
just
Dan.
quickly. No worries. This reminds me of a similar piece that came up at a Heritage auction about a year ago by Scott Koblish. It was like 6 or 8
that's
FF
right.
covers, those FF covers all together. And the price was something that was very strong. It sold for a record for a Koblish piece, but it's tremendously large. It must display wonderfully. And, that's what collectors are willing to go for. A really unique, over-the-top example of comic art. And I'm not shocked by the number. I don't know if I could ever, profitably sell that thing. It's such an odd duck. And Koblish is too, it's not an easy sell because it's supposed to be a top example of something that you really don't get to put any comps of it next to anything else. But visually, it's so striking. Somebody out there, you know, seems to go for it, and these things do sell.
Yeah.
$38,500.
Mm.
6,000 per cover, so not a bad price.
But really
7.5.
impressive. When does modern Bagley pull down 40K? It's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But how many look like this? You know,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unique.
All right, what do we got next here? We have a John Buscema FF 129 page with Thundra.
Yeah, so this is, again, another birth
Cool.
issue. So here we've got the first Thundra issue, and I know there are at least a couple of collectors out there who are huge fans of Thundra, and I'm sure that at least two of them were actively bidding on this piece as well. And it was a piece I was certainly looking at, but you know, when it started hitting over 10, I thought it's nice, but someone else is going to keep going on this, and I shouldn't be that person. So I have the Captain America cover to pay for, so I shouldn't be spending 15 on Thundra. So I just think it's a really great page. I love the action that's going on. I love the asterisk for the sound effect that you get to make up yourself.
Mhm.
Oh, that's cool.
So I just thought it's a really great page. That it's her first appearance just makes it all the more collectible and fascinating. And I just absolutely love this piece, and I'm sure there's a very, very happy collector out there for having picked this up.
Yeah, this is an era of FF that I would love to get something from. You know, Buscema Sinat. I mean, anything would be good, but yeah, you know, I've been looking for something with Dr. Doom on it, but again, this is, I got to get something from this era myself. But yeah, this is out of my league. Whenever you see a character like that, you know there are 5 or 6 fervent collectors of you know, that character, like Spider-Woman pages, right? There's 2 or 3 people you always know you're going to be you know, going up against. It's always better to kind of stay back and just watch those ones. So pretty strong result for that. The signed stationery.
Yeah.
So this appealed to me on so many different levels. First of all, you know, I just think it's a unique Kirby piece. This kind of memorabilia to have taken part in drawing all of these characters, some of which are not really well associated with Kirby. You don't think of Kirby when you think of Daredevil, for example. So I thought this was a really great Marvel Kirby piece. And then when you add in the fact that, look at the signatures that you have, and between Neil Adams, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, I forget who signed at the top.
Who was that?
And Stranco. So, you know, 3 of the people who signed it are no longer with us. Not remembering who was at the top, and maybe even 4, but just adding that little tidbit into it makes it so much cooler. Barry Windsor Smith. Okay.
Yeah,
Barry Windsor Smith. Oh, interesting.
So I loved this. I thought this was a really cool piece, and I was surprised it did not go higher because of its uniqueness and because of the kind of that, I completely agree, Dan, because of kind of that nostalgia when it comes to these kinds of memorabilia pieces. So,
I've seen this. You know, this has been in dealers' hands for many years, I remember. And I'll tell you, like 8-9 years ago, the asking price was way more than what it sold for. I think it was definitely hurt by being a piece of stationery, which isn't really something. The whole hand-drawn stationery personalization thing, I just don't think it's part of American culture as much as it used to be. So as an item, perhaps it lost a little of its context, and they almost bid on it like it was a commission piece. Like if it was just something that Jack doodled for one of his sketchbooks or something, I would expect it to pull a price like that. Certainly if it was published in a book, it should have gone for a lot more, but it's an oddball piece. Whoever got it, enjoy it. You would never have been able to get it so cheap in any other circumstances, but it's odd. And just put it up on your wall and enjoy it, and don't say, oh, Mike Lovitz said it was so cheap, and Dan Pottick put up the whole paddle. He put up the paddle and everything. It's $50K. It isn't. Well, maybe it is, but don't look at it like that. Just look at it as something really special that you don't get to see much from Jack Kirby.
Exactly.
What size was this? Do you know?
Probably just 12 by
12.
19.
Yeah, 12 by 19. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, decent sized piece. I mean, Spidey's drawn. That might be one of the better Spider-Man that Jack Kirby ever drew, right? The webbing.
One of the few ones. I mean, his Kirby Spider-Man is so rare, and it's technically published.
I mean, yeah, somebody's going to be very happy with that one. Clearly, I mean, you're never going to get those characters drawn by Kirby like that again. So, wow. Okay. Well, so a steal. Did somebody hold up the steal? Steal
went cheap, I think.
Went cheap. There we go. Thank you.
And thankfully, Stan Lee didn't draw on any of the characters, which he's famous for.
Oh man, Palmer Adkins, Doctor Strange. That's beautiful.
So I'll be the first to confess that I don't know that this particular issue is all that noteworthy. I don't know that this artistic combination is all that well revered or sought after. But as an old timer, as we established earlier, for me, this was one of the coolest pieces in the auction, because I grew up with the Marvel Blacklight posters. And I thought this was one of the coolest of the Blacklight posters that they ever made. So I just absolutely adored this piece. The price did not surprise me. I don't think a double page spread, any other double page spread from this or a similar issue would have gone quite that high. Another piece that I was on the fence about picking up, but just it's trippy because it's Doctor Strange, which is fantastic and it's really beautiful. But for me, it was all the nostalgia factor with that Blacklight poster stuff. And man, I just thought this was the coolest piece. And I was a little giddy when going through the catalog initially when I came across this one. So
you won it?
I did not. No.
Oh, okay.
I bid to a degree, but once it started going over 15, it was like, okay, it's nostalgia has its limits.
I think it really did get pushed by the Blacklight poster. I don't remember the Blacklight poster because I'm much younger than Michael, but I was I'm just kidding, Michael. We were probably like 5 years apart. But you just started early. The thing about Michael is when I say you're the old timer, you've been in the hobby way longer than me, not so much on the planet Earth. Someone reached out to me and actually asked me what I thought this thing would go for. They loved it as a Blacklight poster. They were thinking about, getting out of their weight class and punching above because it was such a special piece to them. Now, I confessed I had no idea what it's worth. I don't know if it went too cheap or too much. It doesn't seem like too much, but again, I don't know these things. But it really it seems to be even more well known as a poster than as a double page spread.
I actually think it went at a very good price. I mean, the Palmer Atkins did a lot of these Doctor Strange series. A lot of these issues with Atkins doing some of the covers. But this is a remarkable example in terms of the imagery around Doctor Strange and the occult and everything. And I think if it wasn't a Blacklight poster, it still would have gone 12 to 13 maybe, So
Sure.
Going
Well,
double
that's
for
double.
something so memorable.
That's half what it sold for.
That's worth it.
That's a
Though.
huge
I mean,
bump.
for a uniqueness of the Blacklight poster, those are really cool. I think that's the quality of that image. It's outstanding.
Yeah, very reminiscent
I
of
love it.
the Doctor Strange room at the Marvel exhibit, right? With all the mirrors and things. I mean, yeah, no, this is
cool.
This is very nice.
And it's vintage too, right? This is, as I think Chuck said,
Like
it's
68,
Palmer's
I think.
first work. Yeah.
68,
that's about
69
right.
maybe?
Around there, yeah. 171 was the issue.
Yeah. Very nice.
Just curious now. 68 again, very good year.
Oh, it's a good year.
All right, Perez Wonder Woman 25 cover.
Okay, take it away, Michael.
So look, this is the Perez guy who's owned this in the past saying it's a good cover. It's a cover that for me historically has been confounding because for whatever reason, and maybe it's because it was part of the whole invasion crossover that no one cared about it, or maybe it's who's that third character next to her, for people who just didn't follow stuff in the DC universe closely enough. I never understood, but this was one of the least popular original art Wonder Woman covers for whatever reason. I think it's a great example. I think having Guy Gardner on there is awesome, and Rocket Red no one cares about, but a great Wonder Woman. She's dynamic, she's in the front, she's full figure. It's why not? The thing that I thought was most interesting about this, though, because like I said, I always thought it was a great cover. That's why I owned it at one point. This sold a year ago for $20,000.
Yeah, everyone was saying it went too cheap when it sold last time. It was a brilliant flip. Brilliant flip.
So I just thought that was very interesting that, Perez is certainly hot, and the right Perez stuff in particular. And so if there were Perez bargains before, I don't think it's going to be as easy going forward to find Perez bargains. Look at the New Teen Titans 37 page was almost a quote unquote bargain because its final hammer was slightly lower than it sold for last time.
Really? That thing sold for just as much last time? Holy crap. When did that
slightly
sell?
more. I think it was closer to 20 last time.
How long
ago? This was 18. This was 18 and change. A year and a half ago, something like that.
That was a panel page.
It's impressive that it held up.
It's a panel page, but it's one of the best panels in the story with both the Titans and Batman and the Outsiders teams coming straight at you out of the page. So it has that one really amazing panel. Still a really strong price, and it was trending cheap. It was trending like, okay, this might be a bargain. I'm going to have to go after this. And then once it crossed 14, I said, okay, that's enough. It's bargain no longer. Even if it comes out cheaper, it's not a real bargain at that point. But none of this stuff is, it's the middle one there.
Yeah, that's the page, Bill. Love that page.
That one panel is just astounding.
That bottom.
Well, the good news for Perez fans that can't go at these high prices, there is going to be some sort of Perez. It's not an artist edition, but it's an original art kind of book that's coming out to celebrate his art, New Teen Titans, Wonder Woman, some of his best titles.
Oh, there are at least four artist edition books for Perez in the works.
But there's another one coming out. All right, yeah, that's right. I
IDW.
A couple things, not IDW.
It will no longer be IDW now that Scott is no longer with IDW, but it will be from Scott.
Yeah, makes sense.
Awesome. Wow, this is a
great.
Look at that panel. That one panel looks like a cover.
No, it's absolutely a gorgeous panel, and and I have the page before and the page after, and
Nice.
sold this at one point, regrettably, and kept thinking, oh, I'll just get it back at some point, and then went for the crazy number last time, and I thought, oh well, that was a crazy number, and then when it came up this time, I thought, oh, maybe I can get it for a little bit less, and unfortunately, it wasn't less enough for me to want to swoop in on it, but yeah, so be on alert. Good, solid Perez pieces, not just Marvel but DC as well, are holding their value and continuing to creep up or leap upwards, depending. So
good.
That's very good to know. So now we have we saw Stranko's signature a little bit earlier, and now we get a variant cover to Detective 33 in 2014.
I just thought this was so cool because when I think of Stranco, I don't think of Batman necessarily. So just a really interesting cover, and I thought a really strong price for this kind of a modern piece, because it's not that it wasn't published that long ago. So it's just, I think, a byproduct of the fact that there's not a ton of Stranco out there to be had, and certainly not a ton of Stranco Batman. So I thought it did really well, and really loved this piece.
It's amazing. Am I a total jerk if I say I look at it, and if you didn't tell me it was Steranko, I wouldn't have guessed it in like a week? I mean, that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not dumping on the cover. It looks beautiful. It looks amazing, but
well, I actually like the fact that he made it in his own, like his interpretation of Batman, his own, the way he did the symbol and the cape. He's putting his unique touch, I think, on the character, which is great. But again, it's a modern cover, 2019 or something. So
14.
14, yeah, it's not too vintage, but yeah, you don't see much of his DC or Batman stuff. So
no, you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I wasn't reading the links while I was clicking on them. When I clicked on this one, I was like, "Who is this artist?" You know what I mean? The style looks
right.
Because I went right into the Batman, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, and then, but once I read Stranko, then I got it. I could see it, but until I knew it, I wasn't sure. But yeah, at the end of the day, how much published Stranko stuff out there, is there? Not a whole lot.
Rare.
Exactly.
And if you're a Batman fan and a Stranko fan, I mean, this is
it.
This is great. I mean, Burkey's got to be happy. I think he has a Stranko cover of some kind that he's had for a while, but he's got to put a smile on his face to see something like this sell for that. But yeah, no, it's a good price for the right collector, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We got 3 more. Whoa, I guess we only have 2
already
more.
talked about that one.
Yes. So, well, you got the bonus Teen Titans Perez piece. So there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Or even
Perfect.
Buckler Senate here.
For me, Buckler was perfectly acceptable on FF, and with Joe Sinnott inking, so many different artists managed to still get a very similar feel on the book. So this one really surprised me when it was topping and moving into the 12 to 15,000 range, and then I realized, oh, it's the Norrin Rad effect. Just FF by itself lately has been really much stronger than it had been in prior years, and I think the Marvel announcement of the FF movie helped some people who might have been sitting on the fence start looking for and getting reinvested in the title and thinking about buying stuff. But I guess because there are so few FF Surfer pages, that still does well. And when you add in the fact that Dr. Doom and Silver Surfer, that just hits the sweet spot for the right collector. So I was surprised. I thought 18,000 for a panel page from FF was by Buckler was was kind of crazy. But then when you start looking at all the factors, like, okay, it's a strong price, but it's not a crazy price.
It's a battle cover and a battle scene, but I love the way he did all the panel borders. They're the ovals and the bold one, and one that bleeds into the side, and then you have Surfer coming out of the panel on one. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I guess because the curved ones are the TV screen.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. And he's watching the action unfold, right?
Right. But it was a fun storyline. It was a fun few issues. The whole chess piece motif that you see in that bottom tier, very cool. Right. But there are plenty of fans, and early Surfer was still, he didn't appear all that often, so it's still a big draw. It makes FF pages from like the 120s by John Buscema.
Yeah, I'll talk over one of them, the 123 splash that came up. We'll talk over that later.
Yeah,
that's a Surfer. Yeah.
So you following the chat, Michael? Alberto says,
yeah, I saw that. he should know how to reach me.
Yes, he should. Oh man, let's see here. We got one more to go, and this is a Tom Palmer Star Wars Weekly cover from '78.
So I picked this one because first of all, there's been a ton of Palmer, as everyone knows, in the heritage auctions, because the estate handed over all the art. Mm-hmm. And this isn't necessarily an incredibly notable cover, but I looked at it and I thought it's a really great R2-D2 shot. You've got Luke on the cover. Why did it only go for $2,200 or $2,300? That just seemed crazy to me. And I think it ties into partly what Dan was saying before, where, by the time you got to that, we're in hour 6 or so of, of the auction. It's like, oh, do we have to keep looking? And it's just one of those pieces that I think snuck through. I think someone got a real bargain, especially when you look at the fact that the Palmer cover to issue 28, which was also in this auction, went for $18,000.
Yeah,
and this goes for 23.
That's a Chewbacca, Chewie, and R2-D2.
Yeah. So it's just surprising that you have two different UK covers, both done by Palmer, and the other one had a really nice Chewbacca as the centerpiece, but still,
absolutely,
almost 10% of the price.
Anytime you come up with something special in the $2,000 to $4,000 range, you got to be happy. I mean,
well, I think whoever bought it got a good deal, and they should be happy about it. But just like I was saying, there's two different buyers for those two covers that you discuss. At the price point that this thing went, even if it went for a little bit more, you have a lot of choices, and especially when you're talking about Tom Palmer, you have a wealth of choices, not only for, possibly his UK covers, but there's also a lot of Star Wars material that's flowing through. Collectors can afford to be choosy. When they find the right example, they'll go to the mat and take it into the teens. And someone got lucky that nobody felt like getting hungry for this, because they know there's tons of more just to come. I hear that his estate is something in the thousands of pieces.
It'll be coming over the next 3
through here. Yeah. So I think if you are looking at bargains, you will see a few Tom Palmers doing stuff like this in the auctions to come.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to highlight this one, though.
Yeah, great choices, Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, let me swing Dino's picks in here now. Let's see.
And I picked 10 pieces that I tracked for this auction. Just wanted to share this. But wow, let's start with this one. So this is a Daredevil 165 cover, Frank Miller. As Michael alluded to, his Frank Miller is just hot right now as an artist. He's been for a couple of years now, and his Daredevil pieces, I don't think the covers have really come. They're still rare. When they come, it's a treat to see. 324,000 may seem like a lot, but I would actually propose that this is actually a bargain. This is within its first 10 issues, very rare. I love the image with a major villain. You get several of the Daredevil images. Just relative, the two other covers that sold recently, the 190 and 185, both sold for 252 and 225, and those are more kind of past the time where there's some questions on his and Jansen's collaboration, right? This is pure Frank Miller from the heart of his run when he was peaking. I thought it was absolutely a gem of a cover, and whoever got it, I think, has one of the, I mean, just a showpiece, masterpiece, whatever you want to call it. But I was just drooling when I saw this in the catalog. I was not bidding, of course, but I thought this was just a fantastic example of Miller Daredevil at its peak.
Well, technically, it's a great example. The 190 cover that just sold at the last auction was actually on two pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The Daredevil image was on a different board, and it was
head.
fixed. Yeah, it's been fixed up, and it looks and presents very well. But if that thing could hit 250, it shouldn't be a shock that this thing goes for 25% more, because drawing wise, the context, you have all of Miller's light effects and the motion flow that he really put in through Daredevil. The only knock against it, and it isn't a knock, but at the price range we're talking about, like $350,000, many collectors who play in that water can afford to be a little bit picky. I've heard a couple of people say, I kind of wish it wasn't Dr. Octopus.
Right.
If there was Bullseye or Kingpin or some, Octopus would have been like number 9 on the list, but that doesn't make it not an amazing cover. It's an amazing cover, and the Miller market is on fire and only seems to have really devoted and wealthy collectors. So visually, you're 100% on there. Contextually, I get why nobody wanted to go to the moon for it.
Sure. I mean, if it had Bullseye or Kingpin on it, you're talking $500,000 and up, right? I mean,
no doubt.
Because you'd have so many people tripping over themselves trying to
Electra. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Electra. And that's what helped the One Piece. The
190.
The 190 piece. Exactly.
Yeah.
Even though it was on a separate layer, as an image goes, I mean, it's Electra, and
I thought 250 was strong for that one. So I still think this is strong, even though it doesn't look super expensive in comparison. I still think $350,000 for Daredevil cover. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you put it on a class of if it's a Byrne X-Men cover, Daredevil, Miller Daredevil cover. I mean, those are stratospheric pieces no matter what. And if you get one that's one of his better ones, I think you could find it easy to come up with this type of price. So.
All right. You hear that, consignment department at Heritage? Get on it. We want the A example.
That's right.
There you go. Nick says strong price, so I'll hold up the card. There you go, Nick.
Yeah, I did it first.
And it has, we're wearing the same shirt, everybody. I don't know how Dan and we did not coordinate this, but we both wore our OAX shirts tonight.
Cool.
But yeah, no, this was. I really like this piece too. I mean, I loved early Miller Daredevil, and I loved it a lot. Doc Ock, whatever. You get 4 Daredevils on one cover, and I'd be thrilled to own this thing. It would be the highlight of my collection for sure.
So speaking about highlights, so this is the Bagley Amazing Spider-Man 379 cover. I think what makes this at the price it was first of all the Maximum Carnage storyline, the fact that you have Venom and Carnage and Doppelganger and Spidey all within the composition. Comparative price speaking, this is triple what any Bagley cover has sold for Heritage. I think the 370 sold at 45, and the 355 or the 358 sold at the 35. So this is 4 times what historically Heritage has sold a Bagley Spidey cover within the last year. A lot of them have come within the last 12 months. So I just pointed this out because it shows where you have an example that will draw, as that Dan said, it's among the top 3 examples from memorable storyline. If you want a Bagley cover, I mean, you could see people just really finding this one to go after, one and done, and it certainly resulted in a very impressive price.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit on it when you said that if you look back at Bagley's run, how many of his covers have Spider-Man and Venom and Carnage, and there aren't very many. So
yeah, and Doppelganger. I mean, just has everything on it. It's like a battle royale, WWE inspired.
You know,
So.
just for the record, I disliked Maximum Clonage the Arc quite intensely on a personal level, but this piece reminds me of the Wolverine, the Buscema Wolverine cover that Lovitz pulled up earlier, where I wouldn't be into this because this wasn't my Spider-Man and I didn't like Maximum Clonage, but like the other Wolverine cover, within its collecting base, it could be considered a top example. And even so, it's a very strong price, just like the Wolverine. But that's what happens when 2 guys pull on, or 2 collectors, I should say, pull on the same piece and they just won't let go. That definitely happened. I wouldn't be shocked if the person who won that Wolverine cover or the person who won this cover really wasn't planning on spending as much as they wound up spending, but they just knew they had to have it. Yeah. Because it sounds crazy.
It's worth noting that it happened in comics where, 10, 20, 30 years ago, it was like the near mint was twice as much as fine, which was twice as much as good. And while OA isn't, and nowadays you can have a wide spread, right, between the best examples, graded comics versus an average one. I think with OA being very condition insensitive, I think the examples are now beginning to stretch themselves even further, where the best examples are going for just eye-opening prices, which distance themselves from the average examples from that artist or from that title. So whereas maybe 20 years ago it was 2 to 1, like for a best example versus an average, now you can have ranges where it's 6, even 10 to 1 for the very best examples. Just something that's happened in comics. I think you can apply that to choice examples in art as well.
Very true. Very true.
And Noel mentioned that this sold for $5,000 15 years ago, but I mean, nothing surprises me anymore, right? Totally different. In 15 years, the buyers, the market of buyers.
All the 90s art.
Yeah, exactly. All
the 90s art 15 years ago. You guys remember when the Seamus collection came up in Heritage?
Tom McFarlane.
15 grand would have gotten you some killer 90s art back then.
That's right.
Yep. So let's see here. Next, we have that Barry Windsor Smith piece.
Weapon X page. So Fish and I were talking before this auction. He actually pegged this to go at 55. It went in at 60. I think, relative to prior pages, I think the last one sold at 90. This could be a bargain because it's a two-thirds splash. But I think what this says is the Weapon X pages from Barry Windsor Smith continue to be strong no matter what the content. This one you don't get a full figure, but you have kind of everything representative of Weapon X. I think what this also tells me is already, if not already, but soon, Barry Windsor Smith in his legacy will be known for Weapon X and not necessarily for the Conan that was always his blue chip artwork back when Michael and Dan and I started collecting. I think that's a testament to the popularity of Wolverine and the continued aura around the Weapon X storyline, which continues to be reprinted and cherished to this day.
I agree completely.
Yeah, I didn't know where to place this one, but Fish is pretty smart, so it's no surprise that he was within 10% of where it ended up.
Yeah, I had my bid at 55, and someone took it, but I would have gladly taken it at Fish's price. So.
All right, next up, a piece I don't think I was surprised.
Okay,
to see this in your
so
set.
I did some research on this one. This is again, this is from our birth year, Bill,
Okay.
68. This was published as a Gold Key comic, but then it was republished as a Treasury size edition. It's one of those big Treasury comics, so it was with all these other ones that I just thought that made it a pretty memorable. I had no idea it was going to go at 40, but you do have a pretty famous cover scene with King Kong. It's small, actually. It's less than 11 by 17, which kind of kept it what I thought would keep it down. But 40,000 is a very strong price for a Gold Key, even as a Treasury edition. But again, I think movie appeal and the fact that it was one of the few covers by this artist to come to market let it really rise in price. I actually thought this would be a low 20s price, and to see it go at 40, I was shocked, but happy for the consignor, and somebody really wanted it. So
not the highest sale for George Wilson either. There was
no, he's got some Magnus covers, I think. That's
Space
higher.
Family Robinson sold earlier this year, or no, shoot, I mean in the same auction for 84,000. How did I miss that?
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that.
I mean, this is one I tracked. I thought maybe if it goes kind of cheap, I would have loved to have it, like painted covers. And again, it's King Kong, so not many good pieces to chase for him. So.
All right. Well, I don't think we've talked about George Wilson before. Hopefully that's not the last time we do.
So this is probably, I think, the record for a Plug Werewolf by Night splash. And I'll say it was one that, when you look at the image, it's everything you'd want. Not only is the title Werewolf by Night, so you're kind of getting a cover-esque presentation, but you have Werewolf from the Moon. It's early 1970 or 1972 or something, right when Marvel was introducing the horror genre. It's by Plug, who did the early issues and the first appearances of Werewolf by Night, and then he handed off to Sutton and some other artists. But getting a Plug example, I think, is pretty choice. Anyway, this is one I wanted to highlight because of it's just one and done, picture perfect. The whole moon behind it, I think, gives a nice silhouette to the character, which, by the way, you'd never do that in real life. If there really was a moon behind it, he would actually be blackened, right? You wouldn't be able to see him at night. So, but take some liberties. It's a comic book. So, but I thought it was a great example, and glad it fetched a pretty hefty price.
Clearly, there's two moons, one on each side of him. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, you're right. There is nothing close to this market
data-wise
anywhere. But there's actually no real like titles pages that I'm seeing anyway, at least from Plug. So
a pretty rare example. I mean, and
it's hard to find good Plug art, and the guys who grew up with him really do love him.
Yeah. It's with Plug early art, it's Werewolf and Ghost Rider.
That is really a strong price, though. You got to admit.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's see. What do we got next here? John Buscema. Yeah.
Michael, you're talking about the appeal of Silver Surfer within Fantastic Four art. Here you not only have Silver Surfer, but you also have Galactus. And yeah, the Surfer is only half his body above the Stan Lee sign, but you have a full Galactus there. This was from that arc 121, 122, 123 was just so ingrained for Fantastic Four collectors. John Buscema just really had a wonderful run with this, and this is the splash page, or a splash page. So I think this has been shopped. It was not shopped around, but it sold about 6 or 7 years ago, I believe. I can't remember what price, but I knew this would be pretty coveted for the Silver Surfer collectors, and I don't know. I thought I'd highlight because it is one with Galactus and Surfer, and I think 36 is a fair price for a
Hey, Michael.
run.
Yeah.
Do you remember what this sold for last time around when it was being shopped through the dealer?
I don't. I want to say in the 25 range, 25 to 30. But I actually, so I've got a couple different thoughts on this one, and because it was one of the pieces that I also was following and was really, really, really considering bidding on, and the Burkey recently has gotten a bunch of FF splashes, and he's been selling them in this same price range. So this actually surprised me that it didn't go higher, but for the fact that, and maybe other collectors felt the same way. I looked at this and I thought Galactus is too small. I know Alberto said the same thing in the chat. If Galactus had been more pronounced in this, I would have kept going after it, and I think it would have been closer to 40 to 50. But because the Surfer was so small and almost not noticeable unless you're actually looking for him, and because Galactus was smaller, I thought this was cheap in some ways, given the love for that storyline that you're absolutely right about, Dino. I know, like, Bashara has a page from, it's either 123 or 122 with Surfer on it, and he has that page, and I'm not saying that makes this the market price, but he has that page priced at like 20. And if a panel page is going in the 15 to 20 range, you would expect a splash would not be 30 or 30 plus juice, 36.
And I always think about relative too. I mean, the 121 splash with Airwalker in it and no FF sold the last signature auction for 10,800, and that had no characters on it. So here for 3 times as much, you're getting a scene that you remember. He's going to use the push the button and destroy the ship, etc. You have Galactus, you have Surfer. You're right. I kind of think you're getting a lot more for your buck here.
Whereas I think the Airwalker is a more dynamic and more interesting composition and more interesting piece.
Yes. Listen, like I said, this is definitely a more expensive genre. But within the range, look, if you want to say there's a Galactus tax, fine. But if you want to tell me this is a greater example, I'll push back a little bit. I remember when this belonged to Chris Parente, if anyone remembers Little Nemo Gallery. And once upon a time, I don't know, at least a decade ago, I think this thing could have been had for like about $6,000. And I was thinking, Galactus only looks like he's about 9.5 feet tall in this.
Right.
And for some reason, like a bad James Bond villain, he just put a big self-destruct button right. I refuse to acknowledge this is a greater example. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's got Galactus. It's John Buscema. It's run. A lot of the splashes, if they're good, go for 30, 40K. I'm not disputing any of that. But I just don't rank it as high as an example as maybe somebody else does. And I thought it slightly overperformed. But I'm also biased because I passed on it at 6 a billion years ago, and it doesn't have any reference to the real world in the real market that we're in today, but it affects me.
Dan,
I made a snap judgment.
I completely agree. If that wasn't Galactus, but instead it was Overmind from the like the 115, 116, this splash would have been 18 to 20. There's no question that it's definitely a Galactus bump in this instance. It's not.
But it's not I don't think it's the best. But I know. Forget about the best. I'm not talking about top 3 example. I mean,
I was going to say, I don't think this is the best splash.
I don't think
no, by far from
yes.
But it is the one. There's only 3 splashes from the 121, 122, 123 arc, right? So
it's true,
one we know doesn't have that. One's the Airwalker, and the other 2 I think have just FF. But anyway,
strong price. I'll say that.
Yeah,
strong price.
No disagreement from me. Friends, Palmer. This was the Star Wars 80 cover. This thing was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, no, I won this one. This is my
Oh,
first.
congratulations!
All right.
I love it.
It's a Falcon Vader. No,
Oh
it's
my gosh, yeah.
This is, I've owned a number of the UK covers and wanted one from the original run. This was I thought a good example. I am a big fan of the Darth Vader. This one sold for half as much as the Last Friends Star Wars cover that had Luke Skywalker and 3PO on it. So I thought it was a pretty good, I guess, price for me. So, but I'd love to have this on my wall, and I really, really like the bold imagery of it.
Congrats, buddy. It's a great cover. I was keeping my eye on it, and I was like, there's enough Palmer out there, and there's going to be tons of Palmer Star Wars, like I was just saying. But the good examples are getting the bids. This is definitely, I don't know how it ranks in the world of Star Wars covers, but strong central figures. It's Darth Vader, who is the character. I think you made a good call. Good job, Dino.
And this was a kind of a redo for me. I missed out on the Darth Vader, whatever the one Bill J has. I think it sold at the same price, 30,000 around 4 years ago. Missed out on that one, and this came up, and I thought, it's time for me to get a Star Wars cover. So first of the run, happy to bring that home.
It's beautiful.
And I can think of Jordan. I can think of Jordan every time I see it. Right? His meme. Hey, Jordan.
Oh man. So. I'm gonna actually go to Hawaii in August. So I'm gonna get to see Jordan in person.
I'll be there in August.
Really?
When are you gonna be there? And last week in August. So if you're there, we can have a get together.
Yeah, I've got to talk to Maureen. It's her trip with the kids, but I get to tag along for 2 weeks. I may be there that last.
I will connect with you afterwards. I've got my cheat sheet of for friends who go to Hawaii. They can know all the good places and the best ones outside the tourist area. So
I like that. Well, congrats.
Whereas
again.
we just go to the Big Island and make our way to the Four Seasons and never leave.
That sounds fun too.
That's a great way to do it. Yeah.
All right. So Sylvestri Uncanny.
Yeah. So for Sylvestri Wolverine fans, this is kind of an interesting page because it's a dream sequence where Wolverine is hallucinating. And of course, when he hallucinates, he thinks of his battle with Sabretooth. So I just thought this was a very cool page for representative of the run that has both Sabretooth and Wolverine and kind of a battle melee dream sequence. Artistically, it's classic Sylvestri. 20,000, it's just a little bit above. I mean, not a little bit above, about 50% more than what his, average good pages go for from this run. But I just think you get so much more here with the Sabretooth appearance. And he's talking about his kind of, he doesn't bring up the daddy issue, but he does talk about kind of how he's kind of entwined with his history and things like that. So I just thought it was a great example from the Sylvestri Wolverine run. And as we know from the Wolverine cover, those aren't getting cheap either. So
it's early Wolverine versus Sabretooth. I didn't know what it was going to go for, but I knew it wasn't going to be cheap.
Yeah, that was there was a period of time in my past when I was a comic book dealer, and that 251, because of the cover, always was a strong seller and always did well. So it doesn't surprise me that a page from that book, which was so popular and which struck a chord for so many people, does this well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few Sylvestri X-Men pages myself, and I think there was another one in the auction that went for mid-fives somewhere, which I think is kind of like the low-end average. But yeah, I didn't know what this one would hit, but 20,000 is it's nice to see, definitely. I mean, it lets you know, Sylvestri Wolverine is always going to be in demand.
I was going to answer Chuck's note but someone else already did. Yes, this was the crucified Wolverine cover.
Yeah. Famous X cover, right?
Yeah. Well, good amount there on that one. I think when we did that thing, the get together in Columbus a few years ago, one of those pages from that issue changed hands with Wolverine on the cross, kind of silhouetted, and it wasn't a 20, but it was still a strong price back then.
So this is one where Michael said the 156, 157 cover went relatively cheap. I thought this was a bargain. I mean, this is a 4-panel Kirby Thor page with a semi-major villain. You got the 4 Asgard and 4 Honor catchphrase, and then you have all the action lines in this battle sequence. This would have been a 10,000 page 5 to 6 years ago. I'm surprised it went for just 10. I was very surprised, but anyway, I think it's, again, just because of the crowded nature of the auction. But this was to get a 4-panel twice up page. These panels are huge. Like, you're getting a lot of action, and I love the whole battle and the action lines, and it's pretty cool.
Like I was saying before, there's a lot of Thor Kirby pages out there. I thought this was a better example. There were a lot of okay, but really early Marvel Kirbys out there that went up at auction and didn't knock it out of the park. This one did better than most, although it's just standard size. It's not too up.
Oh, it is standard. Okay.
It is, but it's great quality art. I mean, it's got a lot of energy. It's got all the Kirby energy, great lines. I wouldn't have been surprised to see this do a little bit better, but I appreciate there are a lot of examples, especially Kirby, Thor's Kirby. So, this'll happen. Whoever got it got a great example at a reasonable price. They should be very happy. I'll even say wall-worthy.
Completely agree with everything.
Agree with that.
Yeah, I actually have a page from this issue too, and it's not as, I think this page is much nicer. I love the 4-panel layout. That's just so classic. But my page kind of suffers from the same thing. You don't have a lot of Thor's face in it. He's getting beat up. He's getting tossed around the whole time. But yeah, I got mine for about half of what this one went for a few years ago. So I see this, it makes me feel good about it, but I still think this is a better piece than I have. Let's see here. Palmer painted artwork.
So I tracked this as one of the, we know that Tom Palmer gave a bunch of his estate art to this auction. This is one he did for the Nick Fury versus the Shield in 1988, later a more relatively modern compared to his other work. What I liked about this is kind of that movie poster type art, which not only significant in that he can portray a lot of the significant kind of elements from the title, but it's painted, and this thing is huge. It's like 26 inches, almost a poster size itself. I actually thought, I thought at 6,000-7,000 it would have been a steal. At 9,000, starting to push it for a 1988 Palmer cover from this run, but still an excellent example. If you look at some of the other covers in the Palmer run, you don't get the quality that you have here. So I just flagged it because if you're going to come away with a Palmer piece from his estate, this is huge. It's painted, and it's a movie poster-like representation from a title that he worked on. So I just thought it was cool to highlight it.
Well, it's very cool to see a painted cover by him.
We pulled a lot of Palmer art. He did some great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
Very underrated.
There was also that Punisher cover. It was actually done for Punisher Magazine 7, but they canceled it and they made it.
I noticed that. Yeah,
Punisher. I love that one too.
And that wasn't even 9K. Yeah,
it was 7.5. That was a steal. Yeah, but it wasn't as big as this one. So.
All right, what do we got next? Oh, this is a very nice image.
Yeah, this one was kind of cool. I liked it because it's an iconic image of 2 Green Lanterns doing their oath. It's actually not from a comic. It's from the Blue Ribbon Digest, which is one of the smaller pamphlet-like comics. But the original art is regular size, 11 by 17. It's not a famous book, so no one necessarily would have it in their comic collection. But I think as a cover, with the imagery around the oath. I think it was just a great example. It's by Giordano, who was one of the mainstays of the DC comics during this time. I think it would have done better if you had some cover dress, so people would know what it is, and otherwise it looks like a commission or something. But yeah, this was pretty cheap. I mean, when you can get a cover like this, I don't know, $5,000. That I thought that was well spent.
Well, I like Green Lantern covers myself, and I collect that era. I just kind of sidestepped it because don't do the Blue Ribbon digests. And also, I really always loved Dick Giordano's work. This one, it doesn't look so much like Dick to me. When I first saw this, I thought Klaus Janson did the thing. I thought it was Klaus Janson doing on top of Giordano, but it was all Giordano. But it's a great cover. I love Green Lantern. It definitely was worth every penny of the 6,600, but it didn't go to me. I was a few bids below it.
Yeah, no, it's a great cover. Giordano is so well associated, especially with Hal Jordan, thanks to the Neil Adams run. So it hits all the right nostalgic notes. But I agree with Dan. Once you start getting into those digests, even fans of the digests, because most of those were reprints. So even though they were considered part of the DC published comic line, it wasn't a title that was especially well collected, and so it becomes kind of secondary in nature for some collectors. But I think someone got a real bargain here. I think it's a beautiful cover. And,
you say that now. You say that now, Michael. But I know Perez did a few of these things. Watch one of those come up.
And he'll be drooling over.
Blue Ribbon. Blue Ribbon's wonderful. Everybody loves it. Didn't you love Blue Ribbon?
So two quick notes on that. The first is I've been offered at least two of the Perez covers, including the one that's just the golden statues.
Yeah.
The answer is generally no, thank you. But one of the coolest Legion related pieces I have is it's 3 pages of 11x17 artwork that was it 6 per page? So it would have been 18 pages of the digest of the Legion characters, each individual Legion character.
Oh, with their little pin-ups and their name and
right.
Yeah. I've seen those.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm not poo-pooing the digest completely. No, okay. I'm just, but I agree with you. I'll eat my words later. Trust me.
You'll eat your words for a Perez piece. I know.
Exactly.
But we've seen the number, like you mentioned, the paperback cover of the Perez Titans, and this is a Blue Ribbon Digest. I think now collectors could start looking at those non-title, non-main run pieces as, as for the artistic merit that they bring. They don't necessarily have the nostalgia that the main run would have, but as a collector of the artist or that character, it presents for a good value.
Totally.
There you go. One more here. What do we got for your last?
Speaking of value, I always like to pick something that's in the cheap area, relatively. I mean, $1,200 gets you a Venom card art. This was done from the collectible card game. It was actually one of the rarer cards. So, but you have Beredo, who I actually have a Teen Titans cover from Beredo, number 13 from the second series. I know he's done a lot of other works, but here you get him at Venom. It's a good image of the villain. Got him, Bane injecting his Venom. Anyway, for $1,200, it's full size. It's near full size, like a 9x12 or something. But hey, for a published piece, not bad. Not bad for $1,200.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good stuff.
I thought it would go for higher. There's a lot of people in the trading card artwork these days, and I thought that was a solid one. I didn't know where, but I didn't think $1,200 was where it was going to stop.
Yeah.
Well, we're already past the 2-hour mark, but I'll zip through my picks if you guys don't mind waiting another 10 minutes with me. All right, let me drop that. And let's see.
So, Bill,
Yeah.
would you be upset if I dropped off and had my dinner?
No, not at all. That's fine.
Enjoy your dinner, Michael. Good stuff today.
Good talking with you, Michael.
Likewise, guys. Always a pleasure, and I love the spirited discussions as always. So, thanks for inviting me. Glad I could participate, and I'll catch the end of this later after as I'm getting ready for bed, probably. But
Awesome
good
job,
night to
Michael.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
Good night.
All right. No, that's always good to have Michael on. But yeah, I'll go through mine pretty quick. I kind of picked a few of mine. I picked because I figured if Burkey was going to be on, he'd have commentary on some Spidey pieces. But I know you guys can hold your own with Spider-Man, and
I'll keep my paddle ready.
Let's see here. Well, I actually start off with a Hulk cover, which I guess is Burkey related too, right? Since he has so many of them.
Yeah.
You know, this one went for 144, and you know, for me, I don't know. You know, to me, it's not an awesome cover, right? I mean, it's got Doom on it, but
It's no
there's just something
Wolverine
lacking
7.
about it. But I know they're hard to get, right?
They are.
Because there's only like 2 or 3 collectors that hold probably 80% of these. So do you think the scarcity kind of helps move the price along a little bit? I mean, it's got Hulk front and center and Doom on it.
It's tough
I
to
was
call
thinking
because
around 80 though.
this thing should be a better example of what it is because it's got a large Hulk central figure. It's got
Mhm.
Dr. Doom. But again, as you said, this is a very skewed market where you've got just a couple of people who are holding their Hulk covers very tightly from this era. And whatever it takes to get more is what it takes.
Right.
So it's almost it's almost a question of what is the second guy willing to push the first guy to.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong. I have an opinion on value of this, but the only persons whose opinion really matters on auction day is the guy who's willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
And that guy was willing to go to 150. Would 175 have pushed the other guy? The guy who won it would have been the loser if it went another 10, 20%, maybe, but I almost think not. Because at this point, if you've got a dozen similar covers to something like this,
Mhm.
you know, you'd hate to pay an extra 50K, but wouldn't it make the other 10, 20, whatever examples worth that too? So, like Heritage says, very often the Heritage auctioneers don't speak the gospel, but in some cases, the more you bid, the more it's worth. And when there's one guy who wants every example, it's more true than it is other times. Anyway, I think it's a great example, but these prices I just scratch my head, you know.
I'm just glad I have my Trimpy Hulk cover, but it's not
Mhm.
not as good as this one.
Exactly. I mean, it's Trimpy Hulk from 71. You know, it has all those things going for it. Yeah, and I think you're right, Dan. It's just the scarcity is what helps it at the
And
end.
I
Yeah.
actually think it doesn't. The Doom thing didn't add much. I mean, the fact that it's a great Hulk image, you know, central, full figure, it's got him in Rage. He looks like, when I first saw it, I thought he was holding up the title, but I guess he wasn't. I mean, I thought that was a cool. But again, just a rarity. These don't come to market often, and when they do, as Dan said, they go all
They
out.
stay. When they go into a collection, they stay there.
Mhm.
These things stay there. They don't float around once they pop out.
All right. Well, my next pick was from Watchmen, and we've seen a fair number of these pages come up over the pandemic, certainly through now. But you know, I never know what to expect anymore. I see a page like this, and it's very memorable to me, and I kind of thought it might go a little bit higher than where it went.
Honestly, I think this is good enough to say one and done.
One and done.
Because
Yeah.
you're not going to be getting, look, first of all, if you get the covers, any of the covers, they're not going to communicate as well as a good page does. This has the characters, they're in costume, they're in motion. This is, I won't call it a key page, but it's a great beat in the story.
Mhm.
So, you know, at 65K, I think it's all right. I don't think it went cheap, but I don't think there was a heavy premium. That thing shouldn't be less than 50, in my opinion.
Right, with character and without the Rorschach, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I do think that the Watchmen market is only going to tighten up. There was a
Yeah.
point where there used to be bad Killing Joke pages. There used to be a point where there were bad Dark Knight Return pages. There were. And I think we are going to see, if we're not there yet, there's going to be a point in the next few years where there's no such thing as a bad Watchmen page, which makes a good one all the more desirable.
Very true. Yeah. What was the? I think what other piece I was reminded of. Oh, the ball and Joker image, right? I mean, it was some UK cover image, but it went for $90,000.
Yeah,
too.
it went 80 at Prop Pal.
Was that what it went for at the prop store?
Yeah, it was 80, and then now
Okay.
it's 90. Yeah.
So, yeah. I didn't pick that one, but I thought about it. So I didn't realize you're right. It was in the prop store one. I didn't, because there's a couple images out there like that. So I wasn't sure if it was the same one.
It was.
All right.
Yeah.
I just forgot what it went for.
I don't have market data from prop store. I need to talk to them about that. All right. So Ditco Spidey 29 page, $38,000. I mean, I don't follow the Ditco market that well, but I don't know. To me, it seems like that could be a little low, right? With Peter on it. I know it's later in the run for Ditco, but I don't know. I'm just not used to seeing it. Okay, went cheap. Good. I'm glad you agree with me, because
It did.
I was a little surprised. You
know that people will start wrestling for a good example, a really good example. There are collectors who'll duke it out in the $500,000 range for the right Ditko page. Burkey just pulled in that pinup for just under 600.
Yeah.
But that's a different collector than would go for a page with no Spider-Man on it, no villain, no fight scene. I mean, once upon a time, this was a lesser example. And because Ditko was so amazing on Spider-Man, and it's so collected, I mean, even a minor page should be a lot of money. To find a page that has Peter Parker, J. Jonah Jameson, there's characterization. It's not a fight. It's not what the big time players would go for. But there are enough collectors out there who recognize how great all the Ditko stuff is from Spider-Man. So $40K, $50K, even $60K for just an okay page is quite believable. I thought that was fun.
It would be 75 to 80 with just one Spidey in costume panel.
Yes,
so,
just
and
one
here
panel.
You're getting, as Dan said, you're not getting any. You don't get Spidey in costume, but you're getting Peter, you're getting J. Jonah Jameson. I think that's Flash in the back. That Betty back there. So you're getting some key characters in the panel. So yeah, I mean, it's good buy.
Yeah,
good buy.
I think that's actually Ned Leeds.
Oh, it's Ned. I can't see that. Okay.
Then I picked another Spidey page. See, I figured Burkey would some commentary here, but Romita Senior, right? This was from issue 60, page 6, went for 19, almost 20. So I don't know. I feel like it's same kind of thing here. I know that we don't see these pop up a lot, but I feel like this one maybe went a little bit lower than it could have. I don't know.
Well, you do have more Spider-Man pages by Romita than Ditko. It does have him in costume. He isn't doing much, but
Captain Stacy, Gwen.
Yeah,
Mary
it
Jane.
seems like the right price to me.
Okay.
I mean, Burkey's the expert, obviously.
Yeah, because I don't know the market at all, really. I should have done some research here. I was trying to cue some, tee some stuff up.
Well, if he was a consigner, he would say it went cheap. If he were the buyer, I mean, if he were, he could have different.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he's going to say that's how it went cheap without, no matter what. No matter what, it went too cheap. Come on, you're talking to Romita Man,
Yeah.
That's right.
Man Thing, one of my favorite books from the 70s. I have to tell you, Ron Wilson, Frank Giacoya.
This one suffered for it. It's been around for a while.
It has
on
been.
The dealer site. It's
Yep.
pitched at much higher than this.
But it's a good Wilson, though. I mean,
Yeah,
Wilson
look
was
at
very hit and miss. If this were a Plug, God only knows what it would be
40.
charged.
Yeah.
Yeah, more, I think. But yeah, I like that. I like that great 70s 25-cent cover, strong image, 15K. Nothing to complain about there.
Right. I mean, when Ron Wilson's on, he's on, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
So I really like this one a lot, and I don't know. He's a guy who I always like. I root for, because when his work is good, I mean, I own a couple pieces by him. I just you know, I think sometimes it just wasn't on the right books or whatever. But I see this and I think, man, he was doing some great work at this period.
At the same time, in 1974, he did some Avengers covers, which, you know, would be 4 times this price. So.
Right. Yeah. Next up, this one I kind of picked to have a different kind of conversation about. So it's Thor 318 page, Gil Kane, one for 1800, probably about right. But it's funny, I've seen Thor pages in the late 200s, even some John Buscema pieces and pieces after 300 where it seems like the price is dipping a little bit, and I don't know why. Is that something that you guys have been seeing of late? You know, where we're seeing other things start to kind of rebound and go up. I'm seeing this Thor market of from like say 275 to 325 seemingly like soften a bit, which is a little surprising because I kind of felt like they were relatively affordable already. And I'm seeing them either stay that same price or maybe even drop a little. I don't know. Maybe you guys are seeing it differently, but as a Thor collector, I'm looking at these pieces all the time, and I'm feeling like things are a little soft these days.
Well, my view is when you have pages, like panel pages like this in a signature auction, they just get totally crowded out. This would have probably done better if it were in a weekly auction where it wasn't competing against $300,000, Miller Daredevil covers.
Well, I agree with everything, Danny. Yeah, I agree with Dino. I mean, you're right. This is a very nice page for the price. But there are a lot of pages to choose from this run. There's nobody out there who's made a website called Thor Kane Man, where he has every Kane Thor ever made. So, and there are a lot of choices at this price point. I personally feel that went pretty cheap. I think if it went at a less high profile auction, it might have gotten a little bit of attention. But at the same time, I don't follow the market all that closely. And if you're noticing a little softness there, you're probably right.
What has done well is if you look at the history of the Kane Thor splashes, the page 1 splashes, I think those have been coming in the signature auctions, and those do really well. I mean, they're 10 to 15 for the splashes, which are pretty great pieces.
Right.
But the panel pages, it's tough to stand out in a crowd.
That makes sense.
Signature auction.
Yeah, Marcus says the same thing as you guys. This stuff is for the Wednesdays auctions. Maybe there'll be a point in time where they have 2 weekday auctions to kind of.
Oh, don't give them any ideas, Bill. Bill, come on.
Hey, we just got to get the material out there, but
oh God, don't you know they listen to these things?
More sales.
Hey Jim, Bill's been on a Zevia high, so just ignore that.
That's right. It's probably that.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't. That was not a
next.
All right, we got a couple picks that I picked just because it had my name in it, and if I'd been paying close attention, I might have went after this one. Big Bill's struggle. Yeah,
I bet the other one is Uncle Bill as well.
Well, I could. Yeah, the other one was this one.
My old buddy Bill.
I haven't. I've never thought about getting a Charles Schultz.
See, this one would have been great for you, Bill.
Had I seen it, I don't know how I missed it because I would have tried. I mean, this one for what? 6,000. I mean, it would have been. I don't know. I would have been pushed on that one because I'm not made of money.
And with the beer and
I know it's a root beer, but I mean, come on, I got Wolverine and Thor drinking a beer back there. Gerhard just gave me.
It'd be cool.
It would have fit really well. So I'm kind of disappointed. I would have pushed this one up a little bit. I think had I seen it.
Says
The
make
other
an
piece
offer,
was there was a
$10,290.
There
Oh,
was a
that's right. It
Wrightson.
does have the green button on there. Ah, see, I can, but it's got to go 10 now, 10 or more.
Yeah. There was actually a
Uh,
Wrightson Uncle Bill's barrel page that was in the auction. Another Uncle Bill. So.
But either
this
way,
would look great on your wall. Like,
honestly,
like this
had
would
I
be
seen
so
it,
cool.
I would have tried, definitely to get it. What did I pick? I don't even know what I picked for the last two. Another Spidey one. Why did this thing go for one? Is it back to what is this doing in a signature auction, right? Ross
yeah,
Andrew,
I think so.
Yeah.
I
Spidey
think so.
160 page. I mean, come on, Aunt May's in it, Mary Jane, Peter Parker. I know he's not in costume, but for crying out loud, it's Ross Andrew. That's like there's so many people who say they're bigger Andrew fans than Romita Senior. How does any page from that run sell for $1,100? I just don't understand it. I read the description. I'm thinking, is this like half stat or something? Is there what's the drawback here? Because this is like at $1,100. I mean, it's a starter page for 90% of our audience, right? I mean, I've never owned an Andrew, but I'd buy one for $1,100.
Well, I will point out yet again, there is a little button, $1,388 or more.
It still sounds like a bargain, right? I mean,
It does. That's only one more bid. Whoever got it is willing to talk for one bid over. So food for thought. Tell your buddy Mike about it.
Oh, and not only that, but if you buy it, they'll actually lose because they lose the commission.
Yeah.
So they'll lose out. Anyway.
At any rate, that was a surprise. And then the last one I picked just because we've seen a few Power Pack covers sell. Lately.
Yeah.
And this was the issue.
I thought this was pretty cool for $5,000.
I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah.
We've seen a bunch of them. And, the ones that always seem a little more interesting to me are the ones that have the guest stars. And
not like a shark or some sort of unnamed
But
villain.
Cloak and Dagger was a good pull back in the day. For a couple of years,
Yeah.
Cloak and Dagger was pretty darn cool. And this was an early issue. This is one of the nicer ones. But no, I'm not bidding on any Power Pack stuff. So
no, well, there was another Power Pack cover, I think, in the auction that went
for half as much.
Half of it, right?
Yeah.
It
didn't have any of them.
Were the average ones, yeah. So anyway, I thought this was. I like the cover. And I do like Cloak and Dagger too. So
there is one Power Pack 19 that has Wolverine and the X-Men. Or one of those that would, when that comes to market, we'll all bid on that, or at least follow it.
Yes.
Well, there you go. That was my last one. I kept it brief.
Good.
All right. That's appreciated. Well, thanks for inviting me back. I appreciate it. Always enjoy sitting and shooting the breeze about the auctions.
Likewise. I also do enjoy it when I have fellow guests like Dan and Michael and Burkey was here. I like the insights and commentary flowing back and forth.
No, I think you really hit on a great formula where you which would you rather have for either price? I think that's a great format. You shouldn't give up on that. You guys should keep on doing those things, and maybe just when you're not feeling like doing these marathon sessions where you hear, the round table go off.
Right. Those are typically the beginning of one of the normal shows. But
you should try to put more of those back in too.
Those were a lot of fun. I think people really enjoyed the comparisons there. And it was fun always getting to see which one, people especially the last show, right? We had people actually saying which one were they going to go for. And that was always fun because we didn't always agree,
Yeah.
So
this has always been a treat, though. Always great to do recaps and hope people, enjoyed the auction and certainly enjoyed some of our comments tonight.
Agreed. Well, I thank you both for doing it, and Michael as well. Hope he enjoys his dinner and gets to see the rest of this thing later. We appreciate everybody tuning in this evening to watch the show. These are always a lot of fun, and don't forget tomorrow night it'll be a spectacle. Albert Moy is going up against Anthony.
Battle Royale.
Anthony has no chance.
Yeah,
Anthony's got no chance.
I'm predicting a blowout.
Albert's going to crush him. Look, I love you, Anthony. Nothing bad against you, but Albert, he comes in
gets
like
up
once every 2 years.
Didn't you say, Bill, that
he doesn't come to get beat?
Right. Albert's still haunted by the fact when he lost to Burkey.
He is.
He's going to bring it tomorrow.
He's going to bring something. Yeah. I'll be
But
here.
he wanted to go against Anthony before he went against Mike again. I think he wants to get to 1-1 so he can go in feeling extra confident. But yeah, it's been so fun. I already made the intro for it. I usually wait till the day of, but I've been having too much fun.
Is it the Modoc Albert?
Oh, Modoc will make an
Modoc?
appearance once or twice.
Good,
I guarantee it.
Awesome. Well, good luck on the show, and we'll all be in the chat.
Yep. See you guys in the chat tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See you for lunch,
Have a good
Dan.
night.
Good night.